In this session, we're going to talk about an important post-install task for the PyData archive, setting up our basic security model. When the PyData archive is installed, it has a trust configured to automatically log in all local connections as a super user called pyadmin. This is the very definition of a privilege escalation attack. It's intended to be temporary and be removed right after installation, which is what we're going to do here. So we're going to make appropriate security mappings for both our administrator, which is us, and the analysis service, the only other service we've installed that actively makes a connection to the data archive right now. So first off, how does security actually work in the PyData archive? So here we have a user. This is us. We're using an application called System Management Tools. We run PySystem Management Tools as this user, PySchool/Student01. So the domain is PySchool, and the user is Student01. We initiate the connection, and then the PyData archive checks its list of mappings. So it checks its list and sees, oh, okay, I know you. You're PySchool/Student01, and I've got a mapping for you to an identity. Now this identity, you can think of it as an identity card. When a user connects, the PyData archive hands them a card telling them what identity they have and what they have permission to do. So we're going to set up this mapping here to map to this identity called pyadmins. Now pyadmins by default has read-write access to points, read-write access to security, and really everything else. We're on PySIV01 again, and we're going to open PySystem Management Tools. So click Start, and then click PySystem Management Tools. Now once this opens up, we're already connected to our PySIV01 in the top left-hand corner. We're going to take a look at the security plugin. So expand that out, and let's take a look at mappings and trusts. So here we've got two tabs: mappings, which abide by our modern security model, and trusts, which are the older security model. We have this Proxy127 trust. This is the loopback trust that we're eventually going to remove. Don't remove it now though, we're still relying on it. So in the bottom left-hand corner, we see we are connected as PySchool/Student01 and pyadmin. We can actually see if we're using a trust or a mapping. Expand out Operation, Network Manager Statistics. Once that loads up, we'll see everything that's connected to our PyData archive right now, and we can analyze what security model it's using to connect. So here's a bunch of smthost.exe. This is the application name for System Management Tools, and a lot of the other internal PyData archive services. Let's take a look at smthost.exe. Move this all the way to the right-hand side, and we see these are connecting through a trust called Proxy127 identity pyadmin. So let's go to Mappings and Trusts, and back to the Mappings tab. We're going to add a new mapping. Let's click on the ellipsis and search for our account. So this will be Student01. Check names. It's found it. That's great. And OK. So this is our account. And we're going to log in with the identity. So we've got a few different kinds of identities here. We've got new age identities. We've also got some legacy groups and users. We're actually going to take advantage of a legacy group here. There's really no difference between these different categories of identities except for what models they support to log in with. And we're going to disable the older models anyway. We're going to take advantage of this pyadmins group here. This already has all the configuration needed for an administrator. So here, we're going to click OK. And let's create it. So we now have our mapping. It's mapping student 01 to PyAdmins. So let's go back into Operation and Network Manager Statistics and take a look. So we're still logging in under the PyAdmin trust here. Now, if we close System Management Tools and we open it again, just to force a reconnection, we go into Operation, Network Manager Statistics, and scroll all the way to the right. Now we're getting in without a trust from our user account to PyAdmins. And we also get the PyWorld identity as well. Every authenticated user also gets the PyWorld identity, so you can control security for essentially everyone if you want. So we've just configured a mapping to the PyAdmins identity for our administrator. Now let's take a look at the analysis service. The first step here is to create an identity and give that identity write access to points. The analysis service runs under PySchool/SVC PyAnalyt. This was the group managed service account that we assigned to it when we installed PyAF server. So when we connect, we'll need to make a mapping to this account. So we're going to make this mapping here, and we're going to make an identity called SVC PyAnalyt, and we're going to give it access to PyPoint. So when it does connect, it's allowed to create calculation PyPoints, and once it's created, it's allowed to write to these PyPoints. We're back on PySIV01 now, and before we go into mappings and trusts and create our mapping, we actually need to create the identity this time. We're not just going to log in the analytics service as a super user. That would be ridiculous. We're going to log it in with just the permissions it needs. We're going to go up and click on New Identity. We're going to call this identity SVC-PyAnalyt, and we're going to give it a description. Identity for the PyAnalysis service. And we're going to go create here. So we've essentially just created the identity card. It's just got nothing written on it yet. We can come up to database security. This is where we configure top level security for every different part of the PyData archive. The one we want here is PyPoint. So I'm going to double click on this PyPoint and then add in the new identity that I created. I'm going to give it read-write access and OK. So this gives the SVC-PyAnalyt identity access to create PyPoints. The next step is to go down to mappings and actually map our service account to this. So we need to come up to create a new mapping. The account that we're mapping to is PySchool/SVC PyAnalyt $. Note that I'm manually typing this because we need to do that for group managed service accounts. And the $sign at the end indicates that it is a group managed service account. If you're using an ordinary service account, you would click on the ellipsis here, and then you would search for the account name. But seeing as though we're using a group managed service account, we're typing it in manually and then clicking on the resolve SID. It's resolved, it's been found. That's great. We're mapping it to an identity. So these ellipses here, we can select our SVC PyAnalyt, and there we go, create. We've configured our mapping now. We have a few things left to do. We'll go to trusts And we'll double click on this proxy 127, and then we're going to disable it. But before you disable it, look in the bottom left-hand corner and make sure that you are logging in as PySchool/Student01 and PyAdmin's PyWorld. Make sure that you are logging in as that administrator mapping. You can also check on network manager statistics. Just go back in the video a little bit. Because if you're not logging in as that and you disable the trust, you'll be locked out. Let's go OK. So we've disabled the trust. And now the next step is to go to security settings down the bottom and check out our security slider. So right now we have trusts enabled. We're going to disable trusts completely. So we're going to slide this security slider up and save. So note that this requires a restart of the PyBase subsystem. The PyBase subsystem is one of the services in the PyData archive. We're going to restart that, but really we're going to restart all services. So we're going to use this as an opportunity to show you how to stop all Py services and start them up again gracefully. So start up a command prompt and navigate back to D drive and then into %PyServer% ADM. And then run the command pysrv stop .bat. So this is a script that goes through every service one by one, stopping them. So I'll speed up the video a little bit, and now I'm going to type in pysrv start .bat. In this video, we covered how to let in administrator users, and then how to let in services like the PyAnalytics service and give them the permission they need to do their jobs. Then we disabled the temporary loopback trust and removed support for legacy trusts completely from the system by raising the security slider to the top. There's a few caveats here. You should not perform the last two steps in an already established Py system without first going through the Py network manager statistics and making sure there's no applications connecting using trusts. For each application connecting using a trust, you'll have to find out if it supports mappings, create a mapping, and then reconfigure it to use the mapping properly. You can't push the slider to the top at all if you're using any interfaces running on non-Windows operating systems. They won't be able to connect using mappings. Or if you've got any legacy third-party applications that were developed way back when and they rely on trusts and don't support mappings at all. But anything written after about the year 2009 should support mappings, but you never know.